Hi, this is CenterPoint Church Podcast Interviews with Alexia. My name's Alexia, and today we are with our executive pastor, Pastor Marvin.
Hey.
Okay, so what is one thing you would have wanted to do before becoming an executive pastor?
One thing. Well, before I was an executive pastor, I was the youth pastor. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I loved the most, believe it or not, was eating pizza with the kids. Okay? So if I were to pick one thing, it would be to eat more pizza with my teenagers. That's a joke. I've just went, well, I would say this because I see most of the teens starting to grow up and starting to step into different roles within the church. One of the things I would have loved to do was to spend more time in small group Bible studies with them. So whether that be at my house or whether that be, within the church, one of the things I do miss the most is that because I did do it, but I wish I would have spent more time doing that with all the teens. Yeah.
What is one thing you are proud of being a youth pastor?
Well, as far as being the youth pastor, I just transitioned into being executive pastor. So looking back, one of the things that I'm very proud of is to see the diversity within the youth group. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I love to see was the students coming from different schools. So some of them came from Mott, some of them came from the school here, some of them came from Grand Blanc, and so that was something that I love to see. But one of the things I do love the most is that most of our students, as I was transitioning out, really had questions about the Holy Spirit. And so being able to tie in that in my last couple months as a youth pastor was something that I'm pretty proud of.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell us something memorable about growing up and getting to know God.
Okay. Now, most people who are watching this know that, I actually grew up here at the church. So I was actually pulled in through the church by the school here. So I was 1994, so a long time ago. And my parents brought me to the school. And one of the things that I really touched base with me was that I could be around kids that had the same questions that I did. So even as I grew up and actually went to different public schools, one of the things that really stuck with me, specifically in my 6th grade class, was when my music teacher asked the class, what is your purpose in life? And this is a public school, mind you. So It's not something that is usually a deep topic that teachers go into. Yeah. And it's a music class anyway. Yeah. And so the thing that really stuck with me was this teacher was really wanting students to actually talk about, their purpose that God has given them. Okay. And so she shared her testimony, and long story short, that's actually the time that I actually gave my life to Christ in 6th grade in a public school. And so, yes, I was going to school here. Yes, my parents brought me to church here. But it didn't really hit home until that teacher started to talk about her experience with God. Mm-hmm. And then I began to say, okay, this thing is real. This God thing is real. And so you probably have some more questions that are going to lead into that, so I'm not going to spoil it. But it was something that was very tangible for me to realize that, man, this God thing is not just a concept. It's not an idea. He's real. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was your answer when they said, what is your purpose? What were you thinking as soon as she said that?
When she said that, she shared her testimony first. And so it wasn't graphic, but it was very detailed as far as the hardship that she went through. Mm-hmm. And so she asked the question of, ladies and gentlemen, what is your purpose? And so for me, it, like any 6th grader, mm-hmm. you're going to think, okay, what is my purpose? Mm-hmm. I'm used to answering the question back then, I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm going to be, a pro wrestler or something like that. But more than anything, it wasn't so much me answering the question by saying, okay, I know what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. It's actually what am I doing life for? Who am I doing life for? Why am I living this life? And so that's the way that I answered. I actually answered it with another question. Mm-hmm. Like, how am I living this life for God?
Yeah.
And so it really brought me to this place where I started to just really dive into the scriptures and try to figure out, okay, what is he all about?
Yeah.
And so here I am today, still asking that question, still diving in.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay, so this is a little bit deeper,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes I feel like I don't belong here because I don't see other kids that look like me in church classes. Have you ever felt this way being at this church?
Mm-hmm. Well, the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
The short answer is yes, but I also know that when I first started to come to this church, I was, just by looking around, I was the only black student in the school at one point. You know, in kindergarten, the only black student in the class, and so I also knew that the church was the same way. And as I stepped into youth group, years later, it was a case where a lot of the kids were predominantly white, and they had questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the interesting things of being being one of the only black students that might be in the school or even in the youth group at the time, I actually took the opportunity to listen to their questions instead of getting offended, and actually said, okay, let me make this a learning process. Let me make this a learning experience for me and for them. And so it was a lot of cases where they would ask questions like, well, what is it like, living in this certain area? What is it like? Some people would like to touch your hair and whatnot. And
I always get that.
so, girl, you already know. And so it's a case where we actually have an opportunity to share love, but also share a message of like, hey, this is why God created me this way. And for me, through every situation that question came up or other questions, I already realized that, you know what, they genuinely may not know.
Yeah.
And so it's a good thing to be a part of a family that's at least open to learning. And so I would say this, what my biggest lesson being in a situation like that, just being the only black person in the room or black person even in a church or black person in a classroom, was always to say this: God, you created me this way.
Yeah.
And I have a message just like everybody else. And I am able to teach just the life experiences if they're open to it. And most of the time they were open.
Have you ever like I know, like you said, like some people had questions and things like that, but have you ever felt have you ever felt so alone, like you didn't know who to talk to, who to hang out with, who could really understand, but your family? Because I know right now in my church classes, I'm the only black person.
Sure.
It's just how it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know this church is predominantly white. And what would you try to do to bring more people like us to this church?
Yeah. The biggest thing is to learn. The biggest thing is to know that really around our church is predominantly it's a black community. And so the question that we have to ask is, well, to answer your first question, did I ever feel alone? Of course I felt alone, but one of the things that really helped me really get to the point of community and understanding that I'm not alone is, one, focusing my relationship on the Lord, knowing that he created me this way. And then also he kept me in alignment to be at this church for a reason. So I never felt like, hey, should I be here? Should I not be here? Am I an alien? What's going on? Because the biggest thing is that, okay, God created me this way.
Yeah.
The other thing is to be able to, I was able to, again, know that, again, if they genuinely may not understand, why I'm the way I am or created the way I am, that might be their problem. And that's something that we have to pray about and say, Lord, bless them. Yeah. And so it was a case where it was those type of folks, but it also was just people who just genuinely wanted to learn. And it was just people who just said, hey, some people may say, I don't see color. And so it may just be a case where they just don't see it. But again, it's the biggest thing is being able to just be open to learn on both sides. But what would I do to bring more people like us into the church, like I said, we have to be teachable. We have to be humble. And we have to realize that there are people who would benefit by being here, by one, adding on to our worship department, adding on to different things that are within the church that are already placed, where we would be basically a greater picture of heaven if we had more, not just more of us, but more of everybody of every color. That's the goal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good goal.
Yeah.
What is the hardest thing about being a pastor, and what is the most enjoyable?
I got to think about that one. Yeah, I got to think about that one. So the hardest, I would say, is being able to be vulnerable with the people that are around you, that you do not just church with, but you do church business with, so to speak. And so a part of that, at times, it could be easy to just get caught up into, let's just get things done. Let's just get a message out. And then what happens is you lose pace of like, okay, I'm supposed to do life with these folks. And so for me, I have to remember to remind myself that I'm doing life with these people. I'm not just, a business partner. I'm not just a ministry partner. We're brothers and sisters in Christ. So that's something that I would say is difficult because I need to remind myself of it a lot. The most enjoyable is the relationships. So when I get past that and I realize that, hey, we get to do life together. They like pizza like I do. They listen to some of the same music like I do. So it's always a case where as soon as the wall comes down, you just enjoy life and you get to do life together. Yeah.
So this ties into more of the youth thing. How do you feel about Christian rap in church?
Christian rap in church.
My dad is like a huge Christian rap person.
I'm down with it. Okay, so I like Christian rap. A lot of it's changed, over the years. So I'm aware that a lot of the messages that are out there can be, it could be a mixed message sometimes. But I am in support of anything that points to Christ. So I know I actually saw your dad at a Lecrae concert a while ago, and I was like, "Is that you don't call him by his first name?" But I said, "That's Will." I'm like, "Will, what's up?" And we started to do the little dance. I'm like, "Okay." And so I'm a big fan of the same music he is a fan of, but yeah, anything that points to Christ, I love it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I also am a spoken word poet, so I have to love Christian rap in some ways.
Can you do a spoken word for us?
I can't. I knew you were going to ask me that, and I should have prepared. You're going to put me on the spot like that? Come on now.
I was told I have to put people on the spot.
I heard about that. Well, I'll tell you this. I actually did record some spoken words that actually should be released within this week. So if anybody is interested in hearing them, they may be on Facebook or YouTube. So I could just plug that in, and just say, hey, if you guys want to listen to that, just go to my YouTube page. It's called Let's Talk with Marvin, or my Facebook page, normal Facebook page. I'll have my spoken words on there. Then you can
go check that out.
Yes, please do.
Well, it looks like that's all for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Bye.
Awesome. See ya.